Speaking of cheap fakes, we got one. No lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, and he lied. I can't believe it. It's in his name. You know, he said no lie, and then he lied. Something must be wrong. He says, here is a photo of Trump having to hold someone's hand to guide him off stage. I'm sure this will get just as much coverage as the daily Biden old story gets. First of all, when you look at the image, it's very obvious he's holding his son's hand. He's on a walkway. His son is below the walkway, and he's grabbing his son's hand. His weight is not shifted in any way to be guided or anything like that. So as soon as I saw the photo, I was like, he's just grabbing Don Jr.'s hand as his son. Like, is he giving a high five or like a handshake or something? As it turns out, yeah, quite literally. The actual footage, here you go. Here's the actual video. Okay.
Love the walk-off.
Yeah, we don't need the audio. There's Trump walking just fine.
A little squeeze.
Right. He walks by, he's waving. There's Don Jr., his son. He grabs his hand, gives him a little tug, like, how's it going, son? Walks away.
And it's so brief that you could miss it. Right. But they're implying he had to be guided off.
And this is what they do with cheap fakes.
Wow.
This guy, Brian Tyler Cohen, BTC, you know, he was, I think he used to work for MSNBC or something, podcast covering top stories and interviews with the biggest names in politics. This is what they do. They accuse you have raw footage from a press pool showing Biden. Let me explain this ceremony. They're at the G7. They're in Italy. Paratroopers land. All of the G7 leaders are looking at this one guy, clearly there as a group for some reason, other press conference, press event, be on camera. Biden, without prompt, for no reason, turns around and then starts walking away towards a different group of people. The Italian prime minister, then they all start going like this, looking around, walking over to him. The group starts just spreading around. She grabs him and pulls him back to go back to the press. We all saw that happen. We're like, oh, Grandpa Joe's wandering off again. The media then goes, Biden was actually just greeting other paratroopers. And he was with a group for a scheduled press event and wandered off to greet random people. He has no idea what's going on. That's on video. Then you get Brian Tyler Cohen doing this because these people are liars.
I also like this because if someone else had posted it, it's like, look at this father-son relationship. Like, Trump's on stage, his son's supporting him. Like, they have this moment where they're like, hey, how you doing? Like, you're doing a great job. Like, it's actually sort of a nice moment. And instead, the left can't see happy families. So they're like, well, this clearly means that he's weak and old and this, whatever. And don't look at our guy too closely. It's very, very weird.
Well, it's a rock and a hard place for Joe because his son's facing prison time. And he can pardon his son and then make it look like he's a crime family who's getting his son off the hook. Or he can sacrifice his son and it looks like a bad dad. It's tough, right? Mm-hmm. What should he do in that situation? Would you pardon your kid? Honest question. Would you pardon your son if they're on this gun? Me, I would.
No.
Yeah, I would.
Not if they were Hunter. I think he needs that. You know how they say like the best
I would
thing
because
for,
the gun law is unconstitutional. And I'd come outright and say but Biden can't do that because he's not a two-way guy. He's a gun control guy. See, me, it's easy. I'm a two-way guy. I'd be like, ain't no way you're charging my kid because he incriminated himself. That's a violation of the Constitution, and these forms are BS anyway. Pardon in 2 seconds, try me.
Can you pardon some of the crime, the gun-related stuff, but let him go see damage for the tax evasion?
That's a totally different charge.
So you could pardon for one charge, but not all, whatever?
He hasn't even gone to trial for the tax.
You could pardon Hunter blanket for everything he ever did. Or you could pick a charge and pardon that.
He hasn't gone to trial for the tax stuff yet.
We're just asking.
You're saying like if he is convicted of the tax stuff as well, could you pardon him?
Assuming he was convicted of multiple charges, you could pardon one of them?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, a pardon doesn't mean any crime you've ever committed has been absolved.
But it could. As far as I can tell, you could do a blanket pardon of someone.
Right. You specify what the crimes are in line with.
Okay. And
there's ways to word it where it can be extremely broad. But if they really wanted to. But you know, the tax stuff is interesting. I would say right now, if I was Joe, I'd come out right now and be like, pardon? Nah, you're not getting gun charges. I ain't playing that game. Abolish the ATF.
You'd have to pardon everybody that violated that crime, though. You'd have to find them all and give them all pardons.
Oh, bro, I will tell you, if I was president, I would. I would be like, get me a list of anyone who's ever been charged solely and for no other reason than lying on Form 4473, and I will just start rubber stamping pardons. Bump, 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 bump.
Dude, Trump should pardon. That should be part of his campaign. I don't know how tight he wants to get with Hunter, but if he's like, I'm going to pardon that because those crimes are unjust. It's not personal.
Trump should come out right now. I don't know if Trump should do this. I shouldn't say this, but if it were me, one of the things I'd campaign on is I will pardon every single person who has been arrested on gun charges at the federal level. If you're a citizen of this country and there's got to be a review, it's not going to be overnight. You were charged with possession of or distribution of guns, depending on what the circumstances were, because some people might take plea agreements. They might have done something violent and then said, I'll plead to just the gun charge. So after review, if you were like supplying guns to a gang conflict, no pardon for you. I'm talking about if you're a guy who bought a short-barreled rifle with a suppressor and you didn't go through the NFA, that's a pardon. Stamp, out the door. Out the door. Trump should say that. Trump should create if I were Trump, this is what he should do. I will create a pardon review panel that will begin looking at all federal criminal cases, and we will begin the process of pardoning everyone who was convicted of non-violent offenses that did not contribute to violence. So, federal level pot charges, non-violent, no violent circumstances. A guy at the federal level was driving with a car with pot in it, and they pulled him over and they caught him. Rubber stamp, you're out the door. Gun charges, oh, that's the easy one. Don't care what they think. Rubber stamp, out the door.
It's really interesting to me that Hunter Biden's tax trial comes up in September, right? Because I think you're right. These like 2A charges are really passionate people really strongly. And, you know, I don't know that it behooves Trump to specifically speak out on what he's going to do until we're a little bit closer to the election. On the other hand, it's not like this is the only thing Hunter Biden is facing. He is the first child of a sitting president to go to be tried in this manner. But this is just his first rodeo. Like he owes $1.4 million in taxes. And, you know, I don't know that I believe in taxes. On the other hand, like, interesting that this one guy has so many issues in so many different states.
What if Trump said, like right now at a rally, I'm going to pardon anyone who is convicted on tax charges of any kind?
It'd be fascinating, right?
I mean, because they're all nonviolent, like assuming nonviolent, like if there's like Al Capone or something, okay, no. But if it's just like tax fraud, tax evasion, whatever, it's like rubber stamp. Nope, no tax crimes anymore. You're all getting blanket pardon. I can't see that there being a downside of that, because regular people are going to be like, we don't like taxes at all. And then you're going to have like some dude's going to be in jail for like tax evasion, and his family's going to be like, we're voting for him. He's getting our husband or our boyfriend or our dad or whatever out of jail.
Right. The only downside I could see possibly is just you have to already know exactly how you're going to execute this. Because if you promise something like that and then you don't deliver, it's really bad. And I know he would only be able to serve for 4 more years, but in terms of like the legacy of the political movement he's leading, it would be not good to become the representation of false promises on really significant releases from prison. Because you're right, like it could change someone's life if you are on, very minor tax charges, but you're incarcerated. The release of your father, someone who could potentially be contributing to the household, anyone suffering from the weight of inflation, like having another person to help support your family is really key. And so the only downside would be if you make promises so big you can't keep them. But I think there's enough time where Trump and whoever he's interested in staffing could put this together and deliver the plan in a way that really, really excites voters.
Yeah, people that have like minor tax charges, then you actually free them up to create revenue. Then you can actually then tax them for real rather than make them sit in a jail and pay money for them to be in a jail cell.
Right, exactly. The taxpayers aren't paying for them to be, housed and fed and all this stuff.
I think that this age is a time when global interests, whatever you want to call this machine that's trying to create this world order, they're going to use the people in the United States as like pawns, as to get your emotions to go and behave a certain way because of how I feel about that guy. So like Hunter Biden, maybe your emotional fervor kicks on. You're like, I want him to feel punishment because of what that means to me personally. But like they'll use that to set up situations where you'll do something that you think is not righteous to get at someone out of vengeance, and then you'll create a precedent for that thing to be done again and again and again. So be careful with your persecution eyes right now if you end up persecuting someone because you don't like them, because that can be reciprocated and used again and again. We got to be real careful. That's why I'm into pardons. I'm doing something unexpected, like, oh, wow, we're really going to stop going at each other for a minute, and that'll give us a chance to like cool down and redesign this global.
Trump should be like, I'm going to prosecute everyone who committed crimes in federal government, and I'm going to pardon everyone else.
I would be.
So what we'll do is we walk everyone in the prisons out and walk them in.
If it was so easy, if you could just flip a switch and everything. I don't know, but I think that the systems create corruption. It's a big part of the problem. So we could get rid of all these people that have done the bad thing. You put all these new people into those systems, they're going to do bad thing again.
Justin Timberlake got arrested for a DUI, I guess. and that's the news. And he apparently he didn't want to get a breathalyzer. I don't know a lot about the story, but it's just like, why would a dude so wealthy and successful even bother with that stuff? It's because people with power just do what people with power want to do. They want to do whatever they want. You know, you'd be like, oh, I can't believe that guy would do that. No, when people get power, they're like, I can do that. That's the point. I mean, take a look at how we handle speeding tickets. If you're worth $1 billion, you do not care about speeding. Not only that, you'll get a driver. You'll get a driver, you put him in there, and you'll be like, I'm paying you 6 figures. I want you to go double the limit. He's going to be like, I get pulled over, and he'll be like, I'll pay for any of your legal troubles. You got nothing to worry about. And the guy goes, okay. They do. I think it's like in Switzerland. I could be wrong. It's one of these countries in Europe. Your speeding tickets are a percentage of your income. Yeah, so if you're making $10 million a year, it's like you'll get like $100,000 ticket. You're gonna be like, whoa, that's kicking the balls.
Finland, by the way.
In Chicago at the Wrigley at the Cubs games, people would do this. They probably still do this. They double park. They park illegally. They park in front of fire hydrants because the cost of the ticket or the damage to the car or the towing is cheaper than finding parking for the game. So they're like, usually they don't tow you because there's too many cars that do it. I'd walk outside my apartment and there'd be like eight or so cars on my block, double parked, blocking us in and with their blinkers on. And they'd walk to the game because there's so many. The tow companies struggle to get all of them. So people are like, I'll probably be fine if I park on this street. And then we actually had a car towed once. We were like, dude, it's blocking 2 of our cars. And they were watching. But the average person, oh, I'll take the $100 parking ticket. It's paid parking. That's how it works. So when people have power, that's what happens when they get in office. So we're wondering, why are they doing all these things? Why are they trying to arrest Trump? Dude, it's like some dude won the lottery and the government came and said, we want to take the money away from you. And they're thinking, I could use this money to stop that from happening. The issue is they have supreme power, right? If you win $1 million in the lottery, you don't got more money or resources than the government, so you lose. And you go, okay, I can't win this fight. The people in the Democratic Party at the state level and the federal level have access to the highest level of law enforcement. Nothing supersedes this. So their attitude is, we don't want to give this up. We won. We won the lottery. Just start arresting them all. No one can stop us. So they will. If this is a fact, if there was no law enforcement for taxation, nobody would pay taxes. No question. It is only through the threat of force, violence, and arrest do people pay taxes. The people who are in the highest seats of government have no one to worry about. So they're thinking, as long as we win in November, we can do whatever we want.
I think that's sad. I think that's one of the reasons that Americans feel so disenchanted with our nation right now, which is also sad, right? I think that people feel as though no matter how hard they try, if they follow the rules or they don't follow the rules, ultimately powerful people are not working for their best interests and are often looking to capitalize off their suffering. And I don't want to live in a country where that's the theme, right? When we have to do something to change that.
There's different levels of like corrupted power. There's do you know who I am? I saw that Drake was at a party that he didn't get invited to, and they're like,
Reese
what?
Witherspoon
Who
said
are
that
you?
when she was getting arrested for a DUI one time with
And
her
it's,
husband.
oh, that just like nails on a chalkboard. And then Drake was like, do you know who I am? I'm like, oh my God, that kind of power corruption where you actually think your body's worth more than other bodies.
But you know why they're saying that? It's a threat.
Yeah, it's a sort of like subtle threat of like, can you imagine the humiliation you're going to face if you don't let me do whatever I want to do?
Not humiliation. It's you are going to be so inundated with death threats, your insurance company's going to cancel you. Your venue will get shut down.
All my people, you're picking a fight with all my people too. Do you even know who I am? But then the other one is like the utilitarian power, crazy corruption, where you just see people as ants, as like pebbles to be moved around in a pile to better organize the weight of the system. And you're so detached from the plebe, the common man. That's another kind of inevitable corruption, maybe. Being separated from the system you're trying to create or work on, it just leads to, malfeasance because you don't understand the system because you're separate from it.
I think there is a problem where we have a justice system where it's a huge roll of the dice, and depending on your circumstances and who you like, what judge you appear in front of, if you get a sympathetic jury, if you're being tried in a state that's or in an area that's very liberal when you're conservative or vice like whatever, that it's potentially destroying your life when you could have been a productive citizen. And I think there is a question of like, I think we need law and order, and I think that there are people who must be locked up. They are, threats to the people around them. On the other hand, we need a system that separates people who can bounce back from a minor offense and become healthy, productive members of our society, rather than being tagged in a way that ultimately means they can never recover from it. This is one of the challenges that I think Democrats talk about but don't actually do enough for. They'll say like, oh, we're campaigning for votes for felons, or we're doing whatever. But also, as we have seen with their treatment of Trump, they are the first people to use judicial pressure to ruin someone's life.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.